Hey guys, how's it going? It's Radar here. There's been a new patch. It's coming out tomorrow. Let's take a look at it. Well, first up, they're bringing two heroes back. Both of these heroes have been incredibly strong at different times. The first one is Wagtoggle. Wagtoggle was OP when the hero power was this: give +2/+1 to a friendly minion of each minion type. Oftentimes, you'd be able to buy a couple different tribes and then just hero power basically every turn. And the early scaling allowed you to get to the late game consistently and do kind of whatever you wanted. So it was a really, really, really powerful hero, the most powerful hero when it was in the meta for a bit. Now it's going back to what it was previously, which I think is not as good. However, we are in a tempo meta, so I could see it being good enough. That being said, you know, is it better than like an Edwin, like marginally? And Edwin kind of sucks. So I think this is gonna be like a tier 3. I'm not as optimistic as some other people I've seen who have been talking about it. Hook Tusk, on the other hand, though, I think is going to be very, very strong. Hook Tusk was super, super broken when it cost 0 and you could discover from 3 options, and then they nerfed it to cost 1, and it was still like playable but pretty bad. Now it's going to cost 0 again, but instead of discovering, meaning seeing 3 cards, you see 2 cards, and that'll still allow you to get really early triples. It'll still allow you to get a token and then have the second minion be stronger, give you some early tempo. It'll still just allow you to do things in a consistent way that you couldn't do when it cost 1 gold. And I think that's going to be really valuable. I think it is honestly going to be a tier 1, if not very high tier 2 hero. I'm definitely going to be trying it out tomorrow. In terms of the minion updates, none of them seem that impactful to me. The first one we have is Steward of Time. Basically, same stat line, it loses 1 health, but it gains +2 attack when you sell it. I actually think that health was kind of impactful early on because a lot of things have 3 attack, like this pack leader, which we're going to get to later. And being able to take a hit or even 2 hits was pretty valuable. You know, maybe you hit a 1/1, a 2/3, and then another 2/3, and you kill 3 things. Like that wouldn't happen all the time, but it wasn't impossible. Now with 3 health, it's probably going to like trade into another 3/3, which is really common when you buy it, but you end up getting more stats when you sell it. Is that worth it? I think overall it's like a tiny buff, but I still don't think it's good enough for you to actually buy it with the intention of selling it. Like, say, for example, it's basically 3 gold, but you get 1 gold back. So it's 2 gold to give your entire shop +2/+1. Is that worth it? Well, we know +1/+1 wasn't worth it. So unless you had like 3 divine shields or something that was like really, really good, this doesn't seem like it's going to make a huge difference one way or the other. Pack leader, though, this is definitely a bigger buff. I think pack leader was a bit understated. It's generally not that great of a minion, and it kind of is like a crappy investment because it really forces you to go beast kind of early on to get value. Now it's a lot better. It's a 3/3, you know, comparable to other 2 drops you'd be offered, and it has a little bonus. I think it reminds me more of like the pirate guy, South Sea Captain. So I think this is quite a big deal, but this is already weak. So say if it was like generally on the bottom third of minions, now maybe it's like a middle tier, kind of okay if you have the right cards with it. Next up, we have Macaw. Again, all of these changes are really small. This went from 4 attack to 5. I think 5 at that point in the game can be a minor big deal, but I still don't think you'd buy this unless you already had Death Rattle support for it. I don't think it's a huge deal. This one's probably the least impactful to me. Especially since this is like often a late game card anyway. Like it's not like it's not a tempo card sometimes, but I don't think the extra attack is going to be that big of a difference. You know, you have 5 attack and you have like a kaboom bot or whatever it's called. Does that really like make a huge difference? Maybe you couldn't kill something that had like you couldn't kill a Savannah high main and now you can. I mean, I guess. Herald of Flame. This one I think is bigger because its attack value directly affects its ability, right? So like if it doesn't get overkill, it doesn't get that value that really makes Herald of Flame a decent card. It's never been a strong card. So I think having 6 attack as a 4-drop, you know, there are a fair amount of 4-drops that have 5 health. So now having 6 health means you get the overkill. You know, Savannah Hyman was what I mentioned, but like just trying to think of others. There's the 5/5 Dragon, Cobalt Scalebane. There's like that's kind of like a 5/5 is not a weird stat line for a 4-drop. So I think this is going to be impactful. It's not going to be like game breaking, but it's a little bonus. I feel like it's comparable to Pack Leader, but like this is a better minion overall, but it's more expensive. Both of these are like you feel less bad when you get them. Wildfire Elemental, this is a change I don't think is as impactful just because when you get it, 3 health or 4 health doesn't matter as much. Like we talked about how 4 health was impactful when you buy something on turn 2, but when you get Wildfire Elemental, it's at a phase in the game where like what's the word? You usually have minions with 4 attack or higher anyway. So there's going to be some fringe cases where you hit like a Deflectabot or something, and or if you triple into this where this is a little bit better. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I get that like as you can buff this with the 3/2 party elemental, like it could get even more value, but really minor. Gar and Lil Rag also get changed. Gar goes from 5 attack to 8 attack. This is what he used to be. I think that's actually a pretty big change. Oftentimes when I get Gar, like Gar feels terrible to me a lot of the time. Gar is like a win more unit to me in that when you get him, unless you have a full board of elementals, he doesn't feel that great. And like say you're playing like a Nomi or something, you usually like triple into him. You don't actually find him normally. And so even then, like he's an understated minion because he didn't get the buffs that your other stuff got. And if you have a board that's relying on Little Rag and you're not like really comfortable, you probably can't afford to buy a guard that's going to be weak for a turn and then like slowly buff it up. But if you can get that going, of course it's very strong. So will the 8 attack make a huge difference? I think it actually will. I think the difference between like a 5/15 and an 8/15 is pretty big. I think there's going to be a ton of situations where 8 attack is enough to trade and maybe kill 2 things versus killing like literally nothing. And I can imagine situations where tripling into it wouldn't feel that bad. Like it's basically, think about tripling into an 8/8 roughly that gets bigger. How bad do you feel about that? Not too bad. Like I say 8/8 as if you were like you had a couple elementals already. So it's impactful. It's not going to be the end of the world, but it's impactful. Similarly, the Little Rag change also feels like impactful, but not amazing. Little Rag is a minion that I think is like really, really strong, but also really, really weak in that oftentimes tripling into a 6 in this meta is like pretty greedy. It was a lot stronger in the prize meta, but right now, if you triple into a 6, you're usually like rushing to 6. And then if you get a 4/4 out of that, you're probably going to lose the next fight. So you often take like Gentle Genie first or something else that can give you just a bit more value than you hope to grab Little Rag later. Now as a 6/6, like 6 attack is going to be enough to actually kill something. Does that mean that now you can safely triple into Little Rag? No. I think you could even go further and make it like an 8/8 and it'd probably be okay. Or a 7/7. 7/7 would probably be where I'd put it. But I think this will make a difference. Stat like this, like stat buffs like this are not nothing. So, I think these 2 changes will make elementals a bit better. I think overall the changes are kind of funny to me. They're all like really small. They're not that impactful, but oh well. And that's it for the Battlegrounds changes. So not a crazy, crazy difference. I don't think the meta is going to change too much. I think we're just going to have Hook Tusk become viable, and the rest of the units, like certain breakpoints, are going to matter. I think Elementals got a soft buff in that their Elementals got improved a bit. Not the biggest deal. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to see more of me, I've been streaming a bit on YouTube as well, but I'm primarily streaming on twitch.tv/RadarSSBM. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.